BookTube. This is my wrap-up for the Underhyped Books Readathon.
I got my ticket for the long way round. 2 bottle whiskey fall away.
I know this wrap-up is rather late in coming. I just haven't had a chance to do a wrap-up. But I wanted to make sure I did it because I read so many good books during this Underhyped Books Readathon. And these are not books that are wildly popular or get talked about. So I wanted to tell you what they were. I read a total of 2,005 pages over the course of the Readathon. This is a sort of an arbitrary number because, as you know, I listen to audiobooks. So on those books, I just went back and looked at the hardcover amount of pages and same thing. So let me tell you about the books. First up, I read Like Moonlight at Low Tide. This is by Nicole Quigley. This just has 125 ratings, and it's a good little book. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was kind of average, but it is a wonderful little YA romance kind of slash slice of life. It has themes of bullying and self-esteem and suicide in it. It's set on Anna Maria Island in Florida. And it is a Christian book. It has some mention of a youth group and a church group and God and, you know, some things like that towards the end. It's not preachy at all. It's not overt, but it's definitely there. So if that bothers you, be aware of that in this book. I loved it in the book. I gave it 3 stars, like I said, and I thought it was a nice little slice of life, and I do recommend it. Along those lines of contemporary YA romance, I read The Secret Year by Jennifer R. Hubbard. This has 3,157 ratings, and it's a nice little romance. It's a little bit Romeo and Juliet, sort of, and it's told from the point of view of Colt. And Colt has been involved with Julia throughout the school year, but they've not told anybody. One night, Julia dies in a car accident, but nobody knows about this relationship between she and Colt. So a lot of it is told in flashbacks. It's a lot of his feelings about the social structure of the town where he lives, just how important that is, how he kind of navigates those waters and deals with the grief of her loss. I liked it a lot. I gave it 4 stars and I recommend it. I think it's good. And keeping, again, with YA Contemporary, I read This One Time with Julia. This has 187 ratings. I began the readathon with this, and this book is so terrible. It's by David Lamson, and I hope that he's written some other things that are fabulous, because this is not. It is decidedly not, but I hated this book, so I gave it no stars, and I would not recommend it. I'm not going to throw this in the trash, but I am going to turn it into some kind of an art journal. I'm going to write all over the inside of it and draw pictures. You know, I hate throwing books away, so. And then going on to dystopia, I read The Other Side of the Island by Allegra Goodman. This book has 2,943 ratings, and I think it deserves some hype. It reminded me a lot of The Giver by Lois Lowry. I thought at first it was a middle grade book. It is post-apocalyptic dystopia based on global warming. And I thought it was middle grade because it follows a main character who is about 10 years old at the very beginning of the book. Her mom and dad are kind of like free spirits, and they do things very unconventionally. But then the book progresses until she's about 17, and then you start to really see what the society is all about, how it's all conformist, and her parents are non-conformist, and so then there are hints of a rebellion, but it's all about fitting in and what that means and whether it's worth it. And I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, and I highly recommend it. Next up, I listened to, on audio, The Taking by Kimberly Derting. This is book 1 in the Taking series, and it was narrated on audio by Tavia Gilbert. Loved the narration. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I thought she did an excellent job of distinguishing all the characters. I really liked the voices that she gave them. And this is the story of alien abduction, essentially. The main character is on a road one night and she faints, basically, and then she wakes up behind a dumpster 5 years later, and it's all about her struggle to kind of go back into her life and how it's going to work out. And then there's some sci-fi elements to it because she's been abducted by aliens, basically. The book has 1,481 ratings, so It really needs some more hype, I think. I liked it a lot. I gave it 3 stars, but the reason I did that was because I did not like the main character. I thought the story was great, and I liked all of the secondary characters. I thought they gave her a whole lot more slack than she should have had. She was just not a very pleasant person. She had a lot of inappropriate, selfish, self-centered reactions to people who were trying to help her deal with her life. And I just didn't like it. I thought she didn't treat her parents very well. She didn't treat her friends very well. And she accused them of not treating her well. But it was one of those things where she saw no value in the way they treated her. So pacing was good. Storyline was good. I liked the ending. And I'm looking forward to the next book. So I do recommend it. On audio, I also listened to After the End by Amy Plum. This has 2,066 ratings, and it is book 1 in the After the End series. It was narrated on audio from 2 points of view by Emily Rankin and Graham Hamilton. Loved this narration. It was spectacular. Both narrators absolutely captured the characters, and I was so pleased with it. The whole premise of this book is that there is a remote village in the Alaskan wilderness where our main character Juno has grown up, and she has been told that World War III has happened. It hasn't really happened, but she's been told all of her life that it has, and she goes on a hunting trip, comes back, her village is gone, and she goes on a trek to go find them. So a lot of the book is spent with her trying to figure out modern society. She's read about a lot of it, but she has not experienced it. The other main character is Miles. He's the son of a very wealthy pharmaceutical magnate, and he has fallen out of favor with his dad, and he's out to prove himself. So he's going to find this girl that apparently has stumbled out of the Alaskan wilderness. It's kind of a road trip. It's a lot of adventure, a lot of great fun stuff. It ends on a cliffhanger that's killing me. I really want the next book. It has elements of Native American mysticism in it, which I really enjoyed. It's got kind of a new agey, green message, if you will, and all in all, I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, and I think it's way underhyped. This book needs a lot more hype because it was really, really enjoyable. And lastly, I picked up Toxic Heart on my Kindle. This is by Theo Lawrence, and it is book 2 in the Mystic City trilogy. It only has 612 ratings, but it just came out in April, so it hasn't been out that long. I was not terribly impressed with this book. I only gave it 3 stars. It's a good story, but I just don't like the main character. Her name is Aria. It's set in a dystopian world. Essentially, it's got to do with magic and Manhattan in a future where rich people live up high and poor people live down low. Global warming has happened, so the sea has come in. Yeah, it's basically the rich girl who betrays her family and falls in with the magical boy who is looked down upon. And yeah, whatever. I just didn't care about these characters like I should have. There was one secondary character that I really liked. But overall, like I say, I just did not like the main character. I think she's kind of a spoiled little rich girl, and she does stupid things that puts herself and others in danger. And she had a whole lot of big ideas about how she was going to save the world, when really the story would have benefited by her aiding other people in saving the world. I didn't like the ending. It does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I don't know what the last book is going to do. I probably will read it, but only because I really want to see what happens. So I think the series is good. I don't think it was for me, but I think it is a good series. And so, like I say, 3 stars, give it a try. There are some books I've read in recent months that I do want to recommend to you that are underhyped. The first is Midnight City and the Severed Tower. These are books 1 and 2 in the Conquered Earth series. It's by J. Barton Mitchell. Midnight City only has 830 ratings, and Severed Earth has 141, and that is just a crime. It is just a crime that these books are not being raved about in the whole community of people that love dystopians, because they are fabulous. They are fabulous. 5-star reads. I was so impressed. Really, really great stuff. Post-apocalyptic, great characters, wonderful pacing. Thing reads like an action movie. So I read Fury by Charlotte McConaughey. That only has 76 ratings, and I read it as an ARC, but it's a great, great adventure in a dystopian society. I loved the 2 characters. But it had some great action, and I really liked the world. The world building in it was really good, and I think it needs more hype. Another arc I read was called Gift. It's by Andrea Buchanan, and it only has 256 ratings on Goodreads. That is just wrong. That is a great, great little story. It's set in LA. It's about a girl who can do stuff but doesn't want anybody to know it. And it's a fun little story. I really, really enjoyed it, and I would love to see it get some more hype. Along those same lines, 359 by Gretchen McNeil only has 918 ratings. This is a book about parallel worlds, and I loved it. I really loved it. I don't know if there will be a sequel or if it's a standalone. It kind of left off like it could be a standalone, but there was room for a sequel. I hope there is a sequel because this book is fabulous. More people need to read it. I really enjoyed it, so I highly recommend that one. And lastly, I have some print books that I want to mention to you. The first is Lucid by Adrienne Stoltz and Ron Bass. This has a rating of 1,360. And so, you know what? This is a great book. This book needs a whole lot more hype. It has gone through a cover change, and I really wish that it would be more talked about in the BookTube and, Goodreads communities because it's just really good. It's about two girls, when they go to sleep, they dream that they're the other one. And it's a great story. It gets really complicated at the end, and it's unpredictable, and I really loved it. And I really hope people will pick it up and read it because it's that good. Survive by Alex Morel has 1,621 ratings. It's about a girl who wants to commit suicide. She tries that on a plane, the plane crashes, and then she has to learn how to survive. When I finished it, I kept thinking, this is such a great book because it talks about survival and how that is defined in any given person's life. Like, is it just about staying alive, or is it about really living and what is worth living for, and why should you survive? I loved it. I loved it. And I think it deserves a whole lot more hype. And lastly, this is one of my favorite books from this past year. It's called What I Didn't Say. It's by Kiri Taylor. I met Kiri Taylor at a convention where I went, and I talked with her about this book. It is a wonderful little YA romance, and it's about a kid, a guy in high school. He's kind of popular, from a great family, and he's in a car accident, and he no longer can talk. And so it's the story of his relationship with the crush of his life, and interesting lives of both characters, stuff you don't expect, and I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved it. I hope everybody reads it, and I hope more people read Kiri Taylor's stuff because she's written a lot, and it's good. So that's my wrap-up for the Underhyped Books Readathon. I hope if any of these books sound familiar, or if you've read any of them, let me know. And if you end up picking them up, come back and tell me what you thought of them. I really enjoyed this readathon. I think Charlotte over at Ramblings of an Elf Pirate was brilliant to come up with this. I think all of the wrap-up videos that I've heard and the books that I've heard about are just wonderful little treasures for the most part that I now want to pick up. So that's it for now from me, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.
When I'm gone, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone. You're gonna miss me by my hair. You're gonna miss me everywhere. Oh, you're gonna miss me when I'm gone.